Welcome to this second video on the Hygiene monitor. The next step is to configure your Hygiene monitor unit. So what I'm going to do is insert a blank setup card into my card reader, and it will automatically take you to the configuration menu. Of course, you can get there by simply clicking Configure Hygiene Monitor Unit. The first thing to do is to select the unit model. I think that's probably the best place to start. There are two options really. There's the Professional Plus or the Ultima. The other models don't actually come with the setup utility. The main difference between these two is the customer feedback. So we'll do it as if it's the Ultima on this occasion, because then you've seen all of the options available. So the first area on this page, once you've selected your unit, is really to look at the operating modes. Now, all of this is covered in detail in the user guide, so it's worth having a read of that, because it's almost impossible to do this over the video really in great detail. So the best thing to do is definitely to have a look at the user guide for these options on here. But we're going to set up a unit now, and we will quickly run through the operating modes. We have countdown, which obviously if you unclick that it won't show the countdown, but we'll show the countdown on this occasion. Negative counts allowed. That basically allows the monitor to show the negative counts after an inspection is due. So if an inspection overruns, it will show that on the monitor. If you wish to hide that sort of information, maybe not show it, you can unclick that. Display clock, so that will actually display the clock. Clocking modes. This is an option that you can use in conjunction with the operator cards. I'd have a look in the user guide for that. There's more information on it in there. There's reset options by smart card, switch or magnet, infrared, I button. Of course, for the most part, you'll be using operator cards, which we'll be setting up in a later video actually. There's minutes only, which will show minutes instead of hours. Off at night puts the monitor into a kind of sleep mode overnight. We're going to imagine that our office closes overnight and we don't have 24-hour staffing, so we'll leave that on. The up counter, so that counts up towards an inspection rather than down. Footfall. Now this really is an optional extra, so if you have that you'll know that you've got it because you'll have ordered it, and obviously you'll want to switch it on. You can choose between daily or hourly. That is how often the footfall data is collected. So many people go for hourly on that. It will keep a record each hour of how many people have passed the monitor. We're going to leave that off for this setup. The sound. You can have sound come on when an inspection is due. We're going to leave it off. And the switches. This is for customer feedback. If you have an Ultima, you'll have the switches, so you may as well switch them on. Now this here allows you to change the number of times that the power button can be pressed over and over again over a set period of time. So we have 5 power presses. If somebody comes along and presses the power button 5 times in a row, it won't allow them to register any more presses beyond those 5. We're going to go for 3 because we don't want people pressing power just for the sake of it. Display modes. I'm going to leave all of these on. It basically, you can play around with these until you get the display how you want it, but it's displaying the date and the day of the week, the memory, the battery state, the logo, and it flashes inspection now due when an inspection is due. Some people don't like to have that on, but I think it's quite useful for staff if they happen to be passing a monitor and they see that it's flashing, maybe they'll want to do something about it. The date style, you can have the UK style or the US style. We'll go for the UK style. Clock. Obviously we have the automatic daylight savings adjustment, so that when we switch to, in the UK, British summertime, it automatically changes. The clock style, you can go for a 24-hour clock or a 12-hour clock style. We'll stick with 24 hours. And the display ratio. This means that the inspection now due, or the inspection time, sorry, the inspection countdown will show for 5 seconds, and then the clock for 5 seconds. Some people change this. I know one person changed it to 5 and then 10, so the clock is showing more often than the inspection time. So now the reset values. This is currently set to 120 minutes during the day and at night. We're going to imagine that we actually want during the day for it to be every 60 minutes. So once an hour, we want an inspection to be done. So we'll quickly change those. And the night reset value is set to every 2 hours. I'm okay leaving it like that at the moment, and I'll explain why in one moment. The night start time is the time that the day resets finish and the nighttime resets begin. So at the moment we have this set at 9 o'clock for each day. That is when night start time begins. I'm going to change this. So actually our night start time begins at 7 o'clock in the evening, when our imaginary office closes for the day. Then our night end time. This is currently set to 7 AM, which I think is quite reasonable. I've left the night reset value as 2 hours because actually during the evening I want the monitor to be switched off at night. So between the hours of 7 PM and 7 AM, the monitor will stop reading anything and simply display the clock until 7 AM, when the resets will begin again. Now, make sure that you select your site, the correct site, which we set up in the last video. That's quite important. And then I'd recommend saving this setup to file. This is quite useful because in the future you may wish to recreate this same setup on a new smart card, for example. So it's useful to have it there. And of course, you can also load it from file and then make some changes and save over those changes as well. So I'm going to call this test setup. It will be saved in program files in the Hygiene Monitor folder, assuming that's where you've saved the Hygiene Monitor program. And there you go, that's saved. So now we can make our setup card, which is quite simple. Just click on that button there and click OK. And the smart card's been programmed. Now in future you may wish to create a new setup card. It's an idea. You can pop your new setup card into the monitor, into the card reader, sorry, and you'll be taken to the configuration menu again. You can load your setup from file, check that all of the details are correct, and simply click Make Setup Card again. And there we go. In the same way, it's quite easy to make changes to your setup card. So I'm going to insert the setup card that I've just created. And there we go. These are the settings as they have been saved on the card. I'm going to imagine that actually our night end time has just changed and we're going to start coming in at 7:30 in future. So I'm going to quickly change these. And we've also decided that the inspection and clock display ratio should be changed to 5 and 5. I'm going to quickly save these new changes. I'm going to call it test setup 2. And I'm going to make setup card. That will just simply overwrite the existing data on there, and I can go and insert that into a monitor and immediately change the settings on the monitor.